environmental, and social benefits. In this video, you will learn how to identify the different wetland classes found in Canada's boreal. Wetlands support biodiversity by providing diverse habitats for waterfowl and other wildlife. These landscapes help mitigate climate change and flooding. They improve water quality and maintain the hydrology or water flow in periods of drought. We use wetlands for activities like boating, fishing, swimming, and hiking. There are more intact forests in Canada's boreal than anywhere else in the world. Globally, it contains the largest area of fresh water and stores a vast amount of carbon. In Canada, the boreal forest, outlined in dark green on the map, contains approximately 85% of national wetlands. The scientific definition of a wetland is land that has been saturated with water long enough to promote wetland processes, as indicated by the soils and vegetation. By this definition, wetlands can support trees and shrubs and appear dry during times of the year. Peatlands are a group of wetlands where organic material, such as leaves and plants, don't decompose and build up over time due to the cool, wet soils producing peat. These wetlands often support trees and shrubs and may not have standing water. Peatlands are the most common wetland type in the boreal forest. Based on the scientific definition of a wetland, the Canadian Wetland Classification System identifies 5 major wetland classes: fens, bogs, swamp, marshes, and shallow open water. Ducks Unlimited Canada's Enhanced Wetland Classification System further distinguishes the 19 minor classes that gives managers and researchers an even more detailed understanding of boreal wetlands. The rest of this video will describe each of the major and minor wetland classes presented here. While not all of Ducks Unlimited Canada's wetland inventories map to the minor class level of detail, these wetland forms are still present on the landscape. It is important to note that each of the wetland classes described appear on the landscape as a mosaic of varying wetland types. Boreal wetlands often do not form as isolated features, but instead transition between classes without obvious boundaries. Here's a photo of various wetland classes along a small section of the Ladue River in Yukon, Canada. Fens are peatlands that can transport large volumes of water and nutrients across the landscape, often connecting wetland systems over large distances. Fens can range from nutrient-poor to rich, with poorer systems resembling bogs and richer systems supporting a great diversity of vegetation. A poor fen can be identified by the presence of sphagnum moss in replace of the brown or feather mosses found in richer sites. Treed fens are peatlands with greater than 25% tree cover consisting of stunted black spruce and tamarack. Common shrub and ground species include bog birch, willow, sedges, and brown and sphagnum mosses. Tamarack is absent in some of the areas of the Yukon, and therefore other treed fen indicators should be used. Shrubby fens lack a dominant tree cover and instead are dominated by shrubs. Common species include bog birch, willow, sweetgale, Labrador tea, and brown and sphagnum mosses. In this photo of a shrubby fen, we can also see an example of tussocks. Tussocks are raised mounds formed of a clump of sedge or grass that occur in both peat and mineral wetlands. Gramineid fens are dominated by grasses and sedges and are differentiated from marshes by their deep peat soils. Common species are slender sedge, buckbean, cotton grass, and brown and sphagnum mosses. Of the fen classes, you are most likely to see standing water in gramineid fens. Bogs are stagnant to very slow flowing systems that have low plant diversity due to the lack of available nutrients. The surface of a bog is typically dry, but the thick peat below is saturated with water like a wet sponge. All bogs have a thick ground cover of sphagnum mosses that have a distinctive reddish-orange color, although some species appear green or yellow. Treed bogs are composed of greater than 25% stunted black spruce, ericaceous shrubs such as Labrador tea, crowberry, and leatherleaf, as well as sphagnum mosses and lichen. During very wet conditions, you are unlikely to find standing water in a treed bog. Due to the dry surface soils, in rare circumstances, jack or lodgepole pines can take root on raised hummocks within treed bogs. Shrubby bogs are dominated by ericaceous shrubs, like Labrador tea and leatherleaf, with common ground cover species being cottongrass, cloudberry, bog cranberry, and sphagnum mosses. Shrubs growing in bogs are often less than 1 meter tall. Open bogs lack a dominant tree or shrub layer and are dominated by sphagnum mosses, slender sedge, and cottongrass. Swamps are common, diverse groups of wetlands occurring in a variety of landscapes. Their soils are predominantly mineral-based, although peat can occur in some settings. Swamps are often transition areas between upland forests and other wetland areas, such as along shorelines. They are distinguished from uplands by the presence of hummocky ground that may contain pools of water. It is important to note that swamps may only experience flooded conditions a few days a year. Conifer swamps are dominated by tall and often dense black spruce, typically occurring in the transition between peatlands and uplands, but can be found in other settings. Ground cover include horsetail, Labrador tea, blue joint reedgrass, and brown or sphagnum mosses. Tamarack swamps are similar to conifer swamps, with the exception that they are dominated by tamarack instead of black spruce. They are generally richer in nutrients, resulting in vegetation more similar to rich fens rather than poor fens or bogs. Hardwood swamps are dominated by hardwood species such as white or Alaskan birch and balsam poplar. They are typically found in mineral soil drainage areas or riparian floodplains. Common ground vegetation includes alder, willow, red osier dogwood, and blue joint reedgrass. Mixedwood swamps are transition systems between tamarack and hardwood swamps, and as a result are a mix of tamarack, birch, balsam poplar, and black spruce. Mixedwood swamps can also be found in seepage or drainage areas. Shrub swamps mark the transition between marshes and uplands, occurring frequently along shorelines. Shrubs are greater than 2 meters tall and consist of alder or willow. Marshes are likely the most iconic wetland class, consisting of graminoid vegetation such as cattails and bulrushes. They occur at the transition between open water and shorelines, where the water level can fluctuate significantly over the seasons. Marshes typically have mineral soils that can dry out during the summer or in a dry year. Emergent marshes host the classic cattail and bulrush vegetation and are almost always in flooded conditions. Meadow marshes consist of other emergent vegetation, such as water-tolerant sedges and grasses. They are seasonally flooded and may dry out over the course of the growing season. Shallow open water wetlands have water depths less than 2 meters, yet are too deep for emergent marsh vegetation to establish. Visually, these wetlands appear to be shallow lakes, although floating, leaved, and submerged aquatic vegetation are common in more nutrient-rich settings. Open water includes all water bodies less than 2 meters deep with outfloating vegetation on the surface. In Ducks Unlimited Canada's wetland inventories, the open water class also included deep water systems such as rivers, lakes, and ponds. Aquatic bed forms the transition between open water and emergent marshes and consists of floating and submerged vegetation, notably pond lilies and pondweed. Mudflats occur where open water or marsh wetlands have temporarily dried out, exposing mud, marl, salt, silt, or sand. They have wetland soil characteristics like glaying and will transition to other wetland classes when the site is once again flooded. Wetlands cover vast portions of Canadian's boreal forest. In such a landscape, it is important that we can identify the type of wetlands encountered so that potential impacts of these essential ecosystems can be avoided or minimized. Ducks Unlimited Canada offers online and in-person wetland training, as well as field guides to help improve the identification and understanding of wetland ecosystems. These resources are available on our website along with more information about our wetland inventories.